Hey guys, I recently did a video about the concept of the shared fantasy, and when I learned about it, I immediately thought of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, how the patterns fit exactly with what we've seen in their relationship from the beginning. I'm going to try to explain this a little better than I did before, and I think a great way to do that is to take the elements of the shared fantasy and compare them to what we know about Prince Harry and Meghan from before they met. What happened before they met has everything to do with why the stage was set so perfectly for a shared fantasy to develop. The shared fantasy just refers to specific dynamics in narcissistic relationships. Usually it's relationships involving a narcissist and a partner, a husband, wife, spouse. The narcissist and their partner are playing out a fairy tale. They're each other's protector, but they carry it out in such childlike ways. The most recent example that comes to mind is Prince Harry a couple of weeks ago, very emotional, in tears, saying the media had made his wife's life an absolute nightmare. He seems to be the only person who doesn't realize Meghan has sought out media attention since before they met, and even more so since they met. But I'll talk about that courtroom scene in just a bit. I mentioned Sam Vaknin in that previous video. Vaknin has so much information on this. I'll link his channel in the description. One element of the shared fantasy I mentioned is co-idealization. The narcissist idealizes their partner and at the same time becomes whatever that person needs. Meghan's idealization of Harry wouldn't have had anything to do with who he actually is. And once she had fixed in her mind who Harry was in her world, being chosen by him would confirm her worth. It would validate her. Vaknin says this has nothing to do with love. He says it's a defense mechanism and the target becomes a shield against danger rather than an autonomous person. And that reminded me of images of Meghan walking with Harry and grabbing his arm and holding onto him like a shield. I remember that being one of the first things that looked odd to me, that made me think, something is off here. It didn't look like affection. It looks like he is being held as if he's a literal shield. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It really shows how controlling Meghan can be with just a tap. And you can see it right here. The slightest tap, Harry reacts. Once here or there, every once in a while, that's one thing. But when you see it in clip after clip after clip, it's obvious that this is Pavlovian at this point. A few months before they met, Harry spoke out about his grief, and he also talked about wanting to protect vulnerable people. He mentioned children and veterans. Meghan portrayed herself from the beginning as someone who was in danger and needed to be rescued. And this brings me to something else I mentioned in that first video and then just didn't explain, which is the dual mothership dynamic. Sorry, every time I hear the word mothership, my mind goes to alien abductions. This is Vaknin's term, and he's using the word mothership to describe mothering or the role of the mother. But I'll still always think about aliens for like a millisecond whenever I see that word. But it's not just dual mothership. It's also mutual infantilization. Meghan placed Harry in this position of being her protector, but she also placed herself in a maternal role. And it wouldn't have been a conscious thought process. They didn't consciously infantilize each other. It would have been just a natural path for their relationship, assuming Meghan is a narcissist who had homed in on Prince Harry's emotional need and then positioned herself to be the one who could fulfill it. Dual infantilization, dual mothership. And that's what creates this us against the world mentality. Any criticism of the narcissist or their relationship just reinforces that they're all out to get us. Any warnings or any advice from friends or family, it's not accepted as the genuine concern that it is. It's seen as criticism. Criticism just makes the bond stronger. This is where this gets a little deep for me. I do understand it, but it's still difficult to wrap my head around that the mothership role is not about gender, that anyone can be targeted by a narcissist and placed in this role. Once they are, they'll see the narcissist as someone who needs to be protected from the outside world. I mentioned earlier when Prince Harry was in the UK, and he testified that the media had made his wife's life, Meghan's life, an absolute nightmare, I believe were his words. For me, this supports my personal opinion that I've held since Spare was published. I don't believe a word of that book went to print before Meghan went over it it with a fine-tooth comb. I believe Harry's demeanor on the stand had to do with the fact that he was caught between reality and this narrative that Meghan had created. The narrative doesn't square with the truth. It was never based in anything that was true. And here was Harry having been swept up in this narrative, but also having to face the truth. For someone who has been the victim of narcissistic abuse and they've lived this fantasy and they believe it, being faced with reality is confusing. It's overwhelming. Prince Harry is not performative. I think his tears were genuine. I think they were tears of frustration and just weariness. Harry was known to be a rascal. He was known to be rowdy in his younger days, but he was never known to be a liar. He had a close bond with William and then with Catherine. He was close to his father and his grandparents. He had never shown any signs that he thought of himself or Meghan as a victim until she convinced him that they both were. We know from accounts from Meghan's family and friends that she did develop a fixation, an obsession with Princess Diana, that she aligned herself with Diana. And we now know that she encouraged attention from paparazzi. And we know that she urged Harry to release that statement regarding the media being unfair to her. It's said that she told him, release that statement or I'll break this relationship off, and that Harry was desperate to keep that relationship intact. And he couldn't have known. The paparazzi were not chasing after Meghan. Meghan was chasing after the paparazzi. One example, Meghan was photographed just outside the front gate of Kensington Palace by paparazzi just after the palace put out that formal statement. And it was later discovered that those paparazzi shots were completely orchestrated by Meghan. As Tom Bauer said a few years ago in an interview with Dan Wooten, this is his quote, "She wanted her privacy invaded, which to us now doesn't seem shocking because we've seen them invading their own privacy for years now. But the idea that within days of arriving in America for their privacy, she was literally tipping off the paps where to find her. It just shows that she's on a different planet than all of us." I agree with Mr. Bauer, and I'm going to come back to him in just a minute because he has another book coming out, and I think it's one of a couple of reasons that reality is about to shatter Harry and Meghan's fantasy. So how does the shared fantasy end? Or does it ever end? Yes, they always do. They end when the fantasy collides with reality. And when that happens, reality will always shatter the fantasy. It may take weeks or months or years, but eventually the fantasy will be destroyed. The target will begin to wake up from that dream, and he will finally see reality. In this scenario, that would be Prince Harry. The breakdown of the fantasy will be the point at which he realizes he's been deceived by this person he genuinely believed his mother had led him to because she was the one. It's a slow realization that this life he's built was never rooted in anything real, and that his mother had not been with him during this journey with Meghan, or at least not in the way Meghan had led him to believe she was. And he'll have to accept the reality of all the relationships with family and his friends that have been damaged along the way. The target, in this case Prince Harry, has a sense of self they can at least find their way back to. The narcissist does not. There's no self to heal. The way narcissists react when the fantasy breaks down, it can be any number of ways. They can retreat into their own little bubble. They'll rewrite history. They might plot revenge against their partner, or they might plan for future successes and a great comeback. But in any case, they'll spend that time fueling themselves with these delusions of grandeur. I mentioned Tom Bauer. He has a second book coming out. And in this second book, he's going to expose so much more about Meghan. If anyone can find and publish not just information, but receipts that will destroy this facade Meghan has created, Tom Bauer can. He already has with Revenge. And this second book, well, it's said to be set for release in early 2026. Well, technically that's now, so I'm assuming soon. I get the feeling Harry has already started to realize that things with Meghan are not what they seemed. There have been so many reports that he's lonely, that he misses his friends and family. No one deserves to live with a lifetime of narcissistic abuse. I do have sympathy for Prince Harry. I always have, and I wish him the best. As for Meghan, she seems to be out of options. She doesn't have any irons in the fire that we know of. She could write a tell-all book, but then Prince Harry could tell all too. And the palace could leak information, or they could release it outright. Information about how she treated staff, how she treated the family, and whatever else. So far, having the royal family as enemies has worked fairly well for Meghan, because she's been able to frame herself as a woman of color, refusing to conform, rejecting a life of luxury in favor of making her own way. I'm sure that plan looked good on paper. She's benefited from the fact that the royal family generally don't comment on personal matters, but this is no ordinary matter. And any threat from her to tell all might bring the wrath of the royal family and the full weight of the power of the monarchy down upon her. And she might decide that's a battle she doesn't want to fight. Time will tell. I say it in every video. Time will tell. I wanted to try to explain this better than I did before so that if you recognize this in your own life, you'll have a basic idea. Just knowing the term shared fantasy gives you a starting point to find more information. I wish I'd had those words years ago to define what was going on in my life so I could figure it out sooner than I did. So I hope if anyone is going through something similar, this will help them find the answers that they're looking for. Okay, guys, thank you for spending a little of your time with me today. I appreciate it so much. I always enjoy hearing what you have to say. So please leave your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, take care.